Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV Presents True Crimes. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time I go live. Also, don't forget you can follow me on Instagram at Queen Ahmadiyyah. Also on Instagram at divine_goddess_27. Bride and Patreon and melanated people at Queen Ahmadiyyah. Twitter at dgoddess27. Okay, so let's get ready to get into it. All right, so hello, Crimson Countess, Avi the Great, Howard, Goodness Rated Bow, Nevermind 56, Ranice, Mary Evans, Star Jammer, Flow Records. All right. Inquiring Minds Wants to Know Truth, Terry Hinton, Pearly, Misfits, LeVar, Cherokee Descended King. Let's get into this nefariousness, people. It is clearly nefarious. Trust me when I tell you, okay? Now listen to this. Prom horror. Cheerleader, age 18, smashed her newborn child's skull. Okay, she smashed her newborn daughter's skull in, set her on fire, and buried her in a garden days after her high school prom. This is so nefarious. And I love you right, Black Inquirer Minds Wants to Know Truth. This is so nefarious. Now, Sally D said, listening while driving. Okay, beloved, thank you. Now, she killed this newborn baby that she had at home. And it was so callous the way she did it. I mean, she bashed the child's brains in with a rock, stabbed it, and then set it on fire and buried it in her backyard. Now, she told the police that the child was born dead. Question is, if the baby was born dead, why did she have to bash it in the head with a rock? Why did she stab it? Why did she light it on fire? I have questions. And then the only reason she was found out is because her gynecologist that she went to did an exam on her a couple of months later and realized that she had actually given birth. Now, also what was very suspicious is days before this, she had taken pictures with her boyfriend, and it was obvious that she was pregnant, and she'd also gone to the prom, you know, a few hours before this all happened, before she gave birth. And at the prom, on her pictures, you could clearly tell she had a baby bump. You could tell she was pregnant. So at first, some people were thinking, well, maybe she killed it because she was trying to hide the pregnancy. I don't think she was trying to hide the pregnancy, because you could tell in her prom dress that she had a bump, that she was pregnant. I think she killed this child because I don't think it was her boyfriend's child. Her boyfriend's white, she's white. I think the child was black. Now, this is just my guess. The reason I think the child is black is because she, after she bashed it in the head and stabbed it to death, even though she said it was already dead, mind you, I don't believe a word of that. But after she did all that, she set it on fire and then buried it. I think that she set it on fire to cover up the skin tone of the child. That's just what I think. That's what my spirit tells me. All right. So let's get into the details of this ghastly crime committed by Becky. A cheerleader accused of smashing her newborn baby's skull in, setting it on fire, and then burning it in her yard, in her garden, was to face a jury. Now, Brooke Skylar Richardson is alleged to have murdered her baby just days after her high school prom in 2017. And I'm going to show you some pictures of her and also some video footage. Now, Richardson, now 20 years old, was charged with aggravated murder, involuntary manslaughter, endangering children, tampering with evidence, and abuse of a corpse. I'm sorry. Involuntary manslaughter. What was involuntary? This was cold-blooded murder. I don't know why she wasn't charged with murder in the first. So anyway, the prosecution alleged that when she was 18 years old, she gave birth to a healthy baby named Annabelle, which she then killed in Carlisle, Ohio. They further accused her of possibly even trying to burn the corpse before burying it in her backyard. Richardson, known as Skylar to her friends and family, claims that the infant was stillborn. Oh, she said it was born dead, but she had to do all of this to it. Now, They say she claims it was stillborn, and her case went to trial on September the 3rd after a judge threw out 3 motions from the defense that would have further delayed the trial. Authorities first learned of her baby and the death or the murder from a doctor that Richardson had visited just a few weeks after she gave birth. They said the remains were found soon after, and a prosecutor believed that Richardson buried the baby shortly after giving birth. Richardson was full term when she gave birth to the girl, delivering the child in her bathroom within days after her senior prom. County Prosecutor David Fornshell said Richardson and her family had been worried about the community's reaction to her out-of-wedlock pregnancy. He said Skylar and her family, particularly her mother, were pretty obsessed with external appearances and how things appeared in the outside world. They say you have a situation where, she's a cute high school girl, recent high school graduate. She was a cheerleader, described as a good girl by her attorney, as you heard after the arraignment. And he says, I think that kind of perception is one that Skylar wanted to perpetuate and her mother wanted her to perpetuate. Here's the question. If they were so concerned about what people would say, why did she carry the child to term? I mean, I'm just curious. They have something called abortions. If she was so worried about that, why didn't she have an abortion? Not that I condone abortion, but I'm just saying, if she was going to kill it anyway, why didn't she do it while it was still in the womb, before it was born alive? Also, the question becomes, when she was walking around with her stomach showing that she was pregnant, didn't they think or know that people are going to know she's pregnant? So people were likely already talking about her being unwed and pregnant, right? So how does that even make sense? I think it was the embarrassment and the shame that she didn't want to face because that baby was Black. That's just what I think. Now, Richardson had been under house arrest for more than a year after a judge ordered a curfew from 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. Random visits, and there was also random visits to be conducted, and for Richardson to be subjected to GPS monitoring. Her attorneys had accused the prosecutors of creating a false narrative to sensationalize the case. Let me tell you all something. I know a lot about sensationalizing and creating narratives and spreading propaganda and all of those things to make things sound much more salacious than they actually are. Here's the thing. No one needed to sensationalize anything. This is a story of a cheerleader who comes from a good family, supposedly popular in school and all of that. And she murdered a child that she had at home, burned it, stabbed it, beat it in the head, and buried it in the garden. I mean, what more can you add to that story? Those are the actual details. What more do you have to add to it to make it more sensationalized? The story was, quite frankly, already sensational. They told the court, they said, what started as an 18-year-old high school girl who was frightened and saddened because of giving birth to a stillborn baby whom she named Annabelle and telling her doctor of the stillborn and the burial in the backyard is something sinister and grotesque. It turned into something sinister and grotesque. Do you all hear this? They're making all these Mayo excuses. Listen to this. Let me read that part again. They said what started out as an 18-year-old high school girl who was frightened and saddened because of giving birth to a stillborn baby whom she named Annabelle, and then telling her doctor of the stillborn and burial in the backyard, turned into something sinister and grotesque. What in the hell do they mean it turned into something sinister and grotesque? It was sinister and grotesque from day one. The minute she gave birth to that child who wasn't stillborn, she can miss me with that, and she killed it and buried it, and then lied for weeks. And then the only reason they're acting like she just confessed to this doctor just out of feeling guilt. No, she confessed because when the doctor examined her, the doctor clearly knew that she'd given birth. I'm quite sure the placenta, the afterbirth, was still in her uterus. Okay? So she can miss us with all of that. With that all being said, they're trying to act like she was saddened and hurt. Let me tell you something. She absolutely was not saddened. She didn't give a darn that she had murdered this baby. You know how I know she didn't give a darn? I'm glad you asked. Because hours after she gave birth, she not only took pictures for the gym of her stomach, now flat after she had the baby, but she also was out having a ball, having a good old time. And even after she was acquitted in court, she was out partying with her friends. Now, does that sound like someone who was saddened and frightened? She wasn't frightened. She just didn't want to admit that she was promiscuous and that she was a little whore. That's what that was. She wanted to cover up the fact that she was a whore. Yes, she was. She was sleeping around with more than just her boyfriend, likely. And she wanted to hide that fact. It had nothing to do with her being frightened. It had nothing to do with her being sad. Okay? And then here's the thing. If the child was born dead, why didn't she just call the paramedics and have them take the child and examine it or whatever and go ahead and have a funeral for the poor baby? Why didn't she do any of that? No, she didn't do any of that because she was a cold-blooded murderer. And you know where this murderer is today? She's walking around free, working for an attorney's office, no less. And she herself wants to become an attorney. You know, it must be nice to have white privilege, where you can just murder a child, bash its brains out, stab it numerous of times, set it on fire, and bury it in your yard. And you still get to go on and live your life as though nothing happened. And you get to even be an attorney if that's what you want to do. Oh, that must be nice. Absolutely. Now, I'm going to share my screen and show you all some of the pictures of this devil in this video. Also, everyone, please like and share, subscribe to the channel. No need to stab, burn, and brutalize the baby. Exactly, especially if it was born stillborn like she claims. But we know that's a lie. And the jurors knew that was a lie too. They just didn't want to send Becky to prison for the rest of her life for what they would likely deem as just a mistake. Isn't that the things they say when it's a white teenager doing something, when it's a young white person doing something? Meanwhile, you let a black person even think of doing something so grotesque and heinous, they put them under the jail, likely giving them a death sentence. It is what it is. Now, before I show the video, here's a picture of the little devil, demon seed spawned from the pits of hell, no less. Here she is in court, looking perplexed. There she is. And here she is in her prom dress, just hours before she murdered the baby. And if you look closely, you can tell that she's pregnant right here. She has a big belly. So they can miss us with it when they say, oh, she was frightened and she was saddened. She was worried about people were going to say that she was an unwed mom. No, she didn't want people to know that baby was black. That's all that was. Now, let me show this video.
Forge connections. Forge adventures. Forge new paths. Forge new bonds. Only in Pigeon Forge. Plan your visit at mypigeonforge.com.
Look at her just sitting there looking like she's just so distraught. Exactly, Star. Not even crying, not shedding a tear. Alvin says killing babies, but want to complain about low birth rates. Absolutely. Absolutely. This is absolutely what they do. It's all so nefarious, people. But hold on. Now, here's what the OBGYN said. The jury in the trial of a Warren County teenager accused of killing her newborn daughter began a hearing. Now, Brooke Schuyler Richardson, who was 20 years old at the time, was charged with killing the baby and then burning it and burying the remains in her backyard of her family's Carlisle home in May of 2017. The trial got underway that Tuesday with jury selection and opening statements from attorneys on both sides. On that Wednesday, Assistant Prosecutor Stephen Nippen said Richardson researched how to get rid of a baby. Pay attention, premeditated. I want you to pay attention to the fact that they didn't charge this piece of shite with cold-blooded first-degree murder. She was researching how to get rid of a baby. Never told anyone she was pregnant and never followed up with any type of prenatal care. Well, I don't know that she had to tell anyone because she clearly had a baby bump. Now, Trey Johnson said in August of 2016 that him and Richardson had a sexual relationship. He stated they had sex 2 times, but once did not use protection. The relationship ended about a month later, but he said there was no discussions about the pregnancy or that he possibly was the father. A swab DNA test was confirmed, said that he was the father of the baby. Now, this young man who said this is not the boyfriend that she's pictured with. Okay, Nippen said on April the 26th of 2017, Richardson had her mom to make an appointment at Hilltop OBGYN to get birth control pills. However, a doctor estimated she was already within her 3rd trimester and would be delivering within weeks, and said the fetal heart rate was strong and healthy. Now, Hilltop OBGYN medical assistant Ashley Sparkman said that she acted nervous, more than a typical patient who checks in. She said Richardson said she had a period a couple of weeks before the visit and that her periods were normal, clearly lying. A urine pregnancy test confirmed her pregnancy. Dr. Andrew, an OBGYN at Hilltop, said when Richardson heard the results, she broke into tears and said she was not prepared to deliver a baby and she couldn't have a baby. She kept repeating that she can't have this baby and can't tell anyone she's pregnant. She left with specific instructions, however, but she never scheduled the follow-up appointments. Defense attorney Charles Ritgers argued Richardson was informed she was going to leave, or she was going to have about 10 weeks to inform her family that she was pregnant, but instead she gave birth 11 days after her appointment. Nippen told the jury that when Richardson gave birth to her daughter in the middle of the night on May the 7th, 2017, she didn't call 911, didn't try to go to the hospital, and didn't even get her parents. She was still, even when confronted with the birthing process, determined to keep her secret. When the moment of truth was upon her, she took her newborn's life and disposed of the body behind her home, destroyed any evidence of her daughter's existence before going back to bed. Who kills a child, buries it, and goes back to bed as though nothing happened? This girl is a psychopath. I don't care what anyone says. She's a psychopath. The baby is white, umbilical cord not attached, not breathing. She grabs a towel and swallows her child, touches her baby. She names her daughter Annabelle. I want you to pay attention to something, people. Remember how I just told you that I think the baby was black and that's why she killed it? They specified that the baby was white. Why did they specify that the baby was white? Because here's the thing. If the mother is white and her boyfriend is white, wouldn't you just automatically assume that the baby is white? And when children are killed, do they often tell you the race of the child if you know what race the parents are? I mean, how does that make any sense? They said the baby is white, umbilical cord not attached, not breathing. Let me tell you something. That baby was black. Yes, to throw us all silent, D. That baby was black. I'm convinced of it because, like I said, the young man who claims that he slept with her and then they broke up, he said that he was never told anything about the pregnancy or that the baby was his. That's likely because it wasn't his, okay? She was sleeping around with numerous people, even though she had a whole boyfriend, mind you. Now, so they go on to say that she grabs a towel and swaddles her child, torches the baby. She names her daughter Annabelle. She stands up, walks downstairs, and gets a tiny shovel, and walks outside to a tree line that is visible from her bedroom window and digs a shallow grave. She puts Annabelle inside and covers it with dirt in a flower pot. Let me tell you something. She also didn't name that darn baby Annabelle. She didn't name that baby anything because she murdered it. You see, here's the thing, all right? Likely her attorneys told her to name the child, say, oh, let's just call it Annabelle, because that sounds like an innocent name. And also for the simple fact that they wanted to make it seem as though she had some type of emotional attachment to the child, that she literally named it, and that the child sadly was born dead. And so she did all these things out of fear of what people would say. That's just all BS. She didn't name this child. She didn't name the child that. And if she did, it was after the fact. What I'm saying is, prior to her murdering this child, slaughtering it, brutally killing it in a heinous, depraved fashion, she had not named this child. This was just strictly for her to go into court, and also for after they dug the child up, they would have something to put on the headstone, likely. Because here's the thing. Why would she name the child if she was just going to murder it and then bury it in her backyard and hope nobody ever found out or heard of it? Who was going to know the child name was ever Annabelle besides her? Who was ever even going to know the child existed other than her? I'm just saying, make it all make sense. Now, she buried her daughter and marked the grave. She didn't throw her trash. She didn't throw her in a trash can. She didn't throw her daughter in a dumpster. He said, oh, okay, I'm so sorry. Should we give her a cookie? Should we congratulate this witch? Because she didn't put the child in a trash can or a dumpster? Let me tell you something. If you kill anybody, whether it's a child, an infant, an adult, whoever, if you murder them by bashing in their brains with a rock, stabbing them numerous of times, lighting them on fire, do you think anyone gives a darn whether or not you threw them away, discarded their corpse in a trash can, or buried it in a yard? They're dead regardless, and you killed them in extreme pain in a torturous, depraved way. But I want you to pay attention to how they say, oh, well, she didn't throw it in a trash can. She didn't put it in a dumpster. You know why she didn't throw it in the trash can? You know why she didn't likely put it in a dumpster? Not because she gave a darn about that child. She buried in her yard so she wouldn't have to transport that baby's body anywhere and hope and perhaps risk getting caught. Perhaps risk someone finding it. People look in trash cans sometimes, do they not? People look in dumpsters sometimes, do they not? And when the trash people come to pick it up, the sanitation department, sometimes they find these bodies and they're taken into evidence. How many people have murdered people and thrown them into a dumpster? This happened numerous of times. And those people have sometimes been found. So she buried it rather than putting it in a dumpster or the trash just so she wouldn't get caught. So they can miss us with it, trying to act as though she did something noble. Oh, and she at least buried it in a marked grave. Say what now? Are we supposed to think that because she did that, she actually cared about the child? Please. So anyway, Dr. Andrew discussed the health of an umbilical cord and referred to it as having structural integrity and a thin one, and that a thin one can break. Ricker says her stillbirth could have been caused by intrauterine growth restriction, which is known as IUGR, or from a history of eating disorders. While Dr. Andrew said both increased the risk of stillbirth, he could not confirm either for Richardson's baby. You know why he couldn't confirm it? Because they don't know if that baby was stillborn or not. My guess is it wasn't. Like I said, if the child was born dead, why not just call the ambulance and go to the hospital and get yourself checked out and just have a decent burial for the child? The fact that it was born dead, if it had been, which I doubt it was, but if it had been born dead, she wouldn't have had to even tell anyone what happened other than her family, her immediate family. So you know they're full of BS. Now, Ricker said the text messages, Nipkin showed the jury shortly after discarding the baby that she texted her mom saying, I'm literally speechless with how happy I am. My belly is back. OMG. I am never, ever, ever letting it get like this again. You're about to see me look freaking better than before. So she was happy, but they're trying to act like she was sad and frightened. Pay attention. And obviously, people didn't know she was actually pregnant. I guess everyone was supposed to just think that she was just gaining weight. Because now she's telling her mom, oh, my belly is back. And she took a picture at the gym, took a selfie to show the difference in her stomach. Now, Ricker said the texts to her mother about her weight were common in her life for 6 years. And her mother was really obsessive about Richardson losing weight. 90 to 140 pounds her entire life. Her weight would fluctuate her entire life. She would miss a period for an entire year at times. Who misses a period for an entire year? Do you hear how stupid they sound? They said she would sometimes miss a period for a year. Honey, that's because she was pregnant 9 months. Okay? That's why she would miss a period for almost a year. At the end of the day, you know what this is making me think? This is making me think that she has killed another child before. Talking about her weight fluctuating, and sometimes she would miss a period for a year at times. She was likely pregnant before, killed another baby, and got away with that one too. Who knows? Now, up and down constantly, and the people around her did not know that she was pregnant. According to the prosecution, Richardson went to the gym just hours after giving birth. Does that sound like the actions of someone who is frightened and sad? She went to the gym after she killed the baby just hours later and took selfies, mind you. So they say she went to the gym just hours after giving birth and photographed herself and her midsection. She then sent her mom another text. This is also crazy. Talking about her belly's back. She's never going to let that happen again. On July the 12th of 2017, Richardson went to Hilltop OBGYN for a request for birth control, but saw a different doctor. This was Dr. Boyce. Now, Dr. Boyce confronted Richardson about no longer being pregnant, and Nippon said Richardson broke down and told her she'd buried her in the backyard. They say, I have to ask you the last time you were here, you were pregnant and you're no longer pregnant, they said. And then she says, I had it alone in my house and I buried it in the backyard. Richardson told the doctor that she didn't tell anyone what happened and still didn't want her mother to know. She also refused an examination. I said, does anyone know about this? And she said, no. I'm the first person on the planet she ever told. And she said, yes, Dr. Boyce. I offered to do a physical exam and she declined. I told her there could be some trauma or changes but she still declined. Dr. Boyce said she refilled the prescription for birth control and advised her to seek counseling and professional help. 2 days later, on July the 14th, Dr. Boyce consulted Dr. Andrew and the police department were notified. So I want you to pay attention. This Dr. Boyce, this person wasn't even going to report her, likely. For 2 days, they were silent. 2 days later, then they decided to go to Dr. Andrew, who was her previous OBGYN, told them what happened, and then the police were called. So they were just on code. So the skeletal remains of Annabelle were found in the backyard. Also nefarious. Just completely crazy. So they were found in the backyard. Wow. Everyone, please get the lights up. Now, Deputy McKay with the Warren County Sheriff's Office said when Richardson arrived on the scene to direct officials to the burial site, she was visibly upset. Of course she was upset. She knew at this point she's going to face consequences and everyone's going to know what she did. It wasn't because she was sad about the baby, because if she'd been so sad, she would have gone to the gym hours later, taken selfies and sent pictures of her mom to her mom, bragging about how she was going to be looking in a few days. Richardson was then removed from the scene when the site was pointed out. They said we had to remove some of the vegetation, then dust the area very gently. We saw one bone at the time and dusted the area. It was very shallow. We didn't use any tools to dig. There was a decomposition odor as well. Deputy Smith with the Warren County Sheriff's Office said that he was called back to the Richardson scene on July the 24th to process the interior for evidence and to remove electronics. Upon examination of Richardson's bedroom, he said it appeared the bed had been moved that day. He claimed under the bed was a patch of carpet that looked scrubbed. Smith said they used a product called Blue Star, a blood revealer on the carpet, and it illuminated immediately and intensely, which meant there was a large concentration of blood in that exact spot. He also claimed that he could see the outline of a small, tiny torso. Blue Star also illuminated in the hallway and bathroom near Richardson's bedroom. The defense claims there was no DNA in Annabelle. There was no DNA from Annabelle found in the bedroom. The team then played an audio clip in court where they said you can hear officers laughing at the crime scene. Is there something funny about looking for blood? Charles Rickers asked. Smith said it was not laughing, but a reaction to the blue star. There was excitement that evidence was found. While the prosecution claims Richardson burned the remains in a fire pit, Rickers said interrogations show Richardson denying 17 times that she in fact even burned the baby. Coroner D. Russell Upsgrove said when he searched the pit, they found no immediate evidence the baby was burned there. There was, however, ash, pieces of burned wood, chicken bones, fish bones, nothing that appeared to be human, he says. Rickers accused the police involved in the case, who interrogated Richardson. They said that they made her vulnerable. She describes a dead baby 29 times. She's utterly confused by the fire comments. The police made her vulnerable and said Annabelle's remains wouldn't be returned to the family unless she told the whole truth. Let me tell you something. She didn't care about those remains being returned to the family. I mean, pay attention how they're trying to make her out to be the victim. They're not even concerned about the child that she murdered. They're so busy trying to paint the narrative that she's the victim. They said that she was upset because the police claimed they were not going to return the baby's corpse until she told the whole truth. She should have told the whole truth. But at the end of the day, she didn't do that. And also, they're trying to make it like the police mistreated her by telling her they're not going to return the corpse. She didn't care about the corpse. Had she actually cared about it and wanted a decent burial, she wouldn't have buried it in her backyard. So Richardson was indicted on charges including aggravated murder, involuntary manslaughter, endangering a child, tampering with evidence, and a gross abuse of a corpse. In all, if convicted, she could have gotten life in prison, but she didn't. She got like 6 months of probation, I believe it was. No, I don't remember how much probation she got, but she got probation, and that was only for abuse of a corpse. They charged her with the most minuscule crime that they could. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. She didn't get the punishment that she needed. She got probation instead of jail or prison time. But she also got her probation canceled 2 years early, because I think she was supposed to be on probation for 3 years, but it got canceled. I'm going to share my screen so you all can see this video. Everyone, please get the likes up. Please like and share the content. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Please click the notification bell and click the word all so that you're notified each time that I go live. Thank you in advance.
Toyota's national sales event is on now.
Get a new 21 Camry now with 2.49 financing plus $750 TFS finance cash.
It all ends September 7th.
Toyota, let's go places.
To the unreal new details in the trial of a young woman accused of killing and burying her newborn. Mike Schell is live in Lebanon, where Skylar Richardson is on trial. Now, Mike, the information that came out today, simply unbelievable.
It was, Tricia. We will walk you through it now. Attorneys refer to Richardson as both Skylar and Brooke, so you are not confused. But make no mistake, there is only one woman accused of killing her newborn daughter in April of 2017. Richardson buried her baby in the backyard of her family's home in Carlisle, but her motivations couldn't be farther apart.
Just hours after discarding that baby's lifeless body in the dirt, she texted her mother, "I'm literally speechless with how happy I am."
The defense says Richardson was horrified that she lost her baby, who she named Annabelle, and had to bury her.
She buried her daughter and marked the grave and put flowers on top of it. She didn't throw her in a trash can. She didn't throw her in a dumpster.
She researched ways on the internet of, quote, how to get rid of a baby.
The defense says Richardson followed up with another text to her mother. "I'm literally so excited now just for dinner to wear something cute. My belly is back. Now I am taking this opportunity to make it amazing." So much so, according to the prosecution, that Richardson went to the gym just hours after giving birth and photographed herself and her midsection. The defense says Richardson's weight fluctuated between 90 and 140 pounds, so no one knew she was pregnant. The defense claims Richardson had an eating disorder and was always thinking about her weight.
She was like that for years, since really 8th grade. And her mother was very obsessive. Cheering her on about losing weight was like throwing gasoline on a fire.
Prosecutors say Richardson's actions prove she had no plans to care for her child.
She didn't start prenatal care. She didn't look at baby clothes, cribs, diapers, bottles. Upon going into labor, she didn't call 911. She didn't try to go to the hospital. She didn't run downstairs to her mother and father.
There is a dispute over whether or not the infant's body was burned. The defense says police investigators threatened to keep the skeletal remains from Richardson if she didn't say she burned Annabelle's body while holding her hand and acting like a friend.
Help Annabelle. See, everything you do, every time you tell us the truth, it continues to help her. And we're going to get her, back to your family where she belongs. So there can be a real, true burial where she's honored.
The prosecution says the bottom line is that Richardson's baby never stood a chance at life.
The decision on the life of Brooke's daughter was made before that child was even born. She was never going to see the light of day, no matter what.
If convicted, Richardson faces up to life in prison. Coming up at 4:30, we will hear from her OBGYN, who said that
Honey, she wasn't facing no life in prison. They let that little biatch get off with cold-blooded, calculated, premeditated murder. Well, that's what she did. But hold up. Listen to this. This is what the little biatch had to say. She says, I suffer a lot. Skylar Richardson. Yeah, this is what she says. I suffer a lot. And she requested that her probation be terminated. And it was 2 years early. So let's talk about that. And then I'm going to conclude this so I can move on to my next video. Brooke Skylar Richardson, who was acquitted of most of the charges in the death of her newborn child, told a judge that she wants to be a normal person again. That's all. That's what the 21-year-old said during the Warren County Common Pleas Court. Judge Donald Oda II granted a request for Richardson's attorneys to terminate her probation nearly 2 years early. Must be nice. Now, at a trial, a jury convicted Richardson of 1 count of gross abuse of a corpse. That's all she got. And she was sentenced to 3 years probation. No jail or prison time. Oda said the charge was the lowest level of felony. Richardson had no previous criminal history and followed all the rules of the court-ordered supervision, he said. There is no reason for me to invest the time and resources of my probation department in supervising you. I'm sorry, you're a whole cold-blooded killer. So there was no need to supervise her. Is that what Judge Oda said? He should be taken from the bench. And not to mention her and her mother should have been charged because her mother clearly knew what was going on. Now they say a sentence of probation, he added, it's not punishment or rehabilitation. Really? Why don't they say that when they give it to Black people then? Oda said it gave Richardson the opportunity to show why she shouldn't go to prison. Richardson was 18 when she was accused in 2017 of killing her infant child and burying the body in her parents' backyard. Prosecutors said she did it in secrecy to protect her picture-perfect image. Her attorney said that she had a stillbirth and didn't know what else to do. She didn't know what else to do. Please pay attention to how they always feign stupidity. She knew what to do. If you have a stillborn baby, call the ambulance so they can take you to the hospital so you can get checked out, and so the child can be taken to the morgue. Now, in the 14 months after her acquittal, Richardson completed 2 semesters at an unidentified college and worked part-time at a law firm that represented her, Rickers and Rickers. So the same attorneys that represented her hired her. This is what they do. When I tell you they're always on code, pay attention. Now, she sought other jobs, according to her attorneys, but was rejected because she was on probation. That's bullshit. They're just trying to explain away and justify the reason that they hired a killer. That's what that is. Richardson spoke haltingly at times during the hearing and apologized for not showing more remorse. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not crying and falling down on my knees and begging for forgiveness. Just please excuse me for not showing more remorse. She didn't show any remorse, talking about more. There was no tears on her face. She didn't even look fazed. The only reason she was even bothered in the slightest is because she was afraid she was going to prison. So they said she apologized for not showing more remorse, something the family of the child's father said they haven't seen yet. Well, they won't see it. And newsflash, her poor boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, he's not even the father as far as I'm concerned. I doubt it very seriously. Though he could be, but I don't think so. Now, they say, I feel a lot of things, but it's hard for now. This is what she said. I feel a lot of things, but it's hard to show. I suffer a lot. I am very sorry. I hurt a lot. I wonder if she hurts as much as the baby did when she bashed it in the head with a rock, when she stabbed it repeatedly, and when she set it on fire. She says, I want to contribute to society as much as I can to prove that you made the right decision. This is what she told the judge. The mother of the child's father on Tuesday asked Oda to give Richardson have Richardson serve the full 3-year sentence. Tracy Johnson said she doesn't believe Richardson has been rehabilitated. No, she hasn't. She has no sorrow or shame for what she did. She says, who goes from nothing to giving birth and burying your own child in secret and then acting like nothing happened until they're caught? I'll tell you who does that. A psychopath. She says, that's the first bad thing you do. And you show absolutely no remorse for it? Where do you come from? Where do you go from there? That's what she asked. And I don't blame her. I'd be asking the same thing. Now, at last year's trial, a jury found Richardson not guilty of aggravated murder. Also, involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment. They say there are people in the community, this is what Oda, the judge, told Richardson, who believe you got away with murder. Honey, there's not just people in the community believe it. There's people around the world who believe it. She did get away with murder. He called that the perception of the case. But the reality, he said, is that the conviction is for a low-level felony. I don't care what felony it is. It was for murder. She killed a person. Now, he says, you are employed. You are attending college, adding that he had no reason to believe that she would commit any crimes in the future. Good luck, he said. See, this is what happens when you're white. You can kill somebody in a heinous way. Bury them in your backyard. How do we know the baby was even dead when she buried it? I'm just saying. But the judge congratulated her. Just like that judge, Tammy the Mammy Kemp, who hugged Amber Geiger right before her sentencing. So anyway, here's another video I'm going to show you of the devil. It's also nefarious. Likes up, everyone. Please get the likes up. Please like and share. Thank you in advance.
Create the next big thing ready. Get your entire list for less ready. Shop staples and be more than ready for back to school.
Present before the court is Ms. Richardson, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Represented by Mr. Rickers and Mr. Rickers. We have Mr. Knippen, Ms. Kraft on behalf of the prosecutor's office, Officer Bittinger on behalf of probation. We are here today for sentencing. Has everybody had the opportunity to review the PSI?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Judge.
Any reason we should not go forward with sentencing today?
No, Judge.
The defendant was convicted yesterday of the abuse of a corpse charge, which is a felony of the 5th degree. The maximum punishment is a $2,500 fine and 12 months in prison. Counsel, we agree that this is a mandatory community control case, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
What that means, Ms. Richardson, is because this is a felony of the 5th degree and you have no prior criminal record and you don't fit the other statutory criteria, the most I am required by law to place you on community control. That's what we used to call in the old days probation. That means that the maximum that I can sentence you to today, even though the maximum for this offense is 12 months in prison, the maximum that I can sentence you today is to 6 months of local incarceration. That means in the county jail. We have 7 days of jail time credit. I think one thing it's important to point out, Ms. Richardson, before we get started with the trial or with the sentencing hearing in this case, is that in the entire time that this case was pending, back when it started, I set a bond, and that you've been sleeping at home while this trial has been going on, and you've been out and about. I know that there was some angst about that, but the reason I do set a reasonable bail in a case is because you're presumed to be innocent. That means that you haven't been convicted of anything, and you have the right to a reasonable bail.
That's just all more Mayo-splaining and a whole load of BS. He said the reason he set such a bail was because she has a presumption of innocence. At the end of the day, everyone who posts a bail or is granted bail is supposed to have a presumption of innocence until proven guilty, right? Then why do some people get $1 million bond? I'm just saying, please make it all make sense, honey. They were clearly just trying to be on code. They don't want this little biatch to go to prison. But I hope she burns in hell. That's what I hope, okay? And anyone who was complicit, her mother included, I hope they burn in hell as well. So with that all being said, I'm going to conclude this broadcast. I want to thank you all for tuning in once again to Queen Ahmadiyyah TV Presents True Crimes. Please join me in the next chat. I'm going to talk about this nefarious thug who skipped school to break into the home and murder a man between classes. Pay attention. These are the things that they do. But they want to act like Black teens are so bad. And the police will murder Black teenagers unarmed. Remember all that the Mayos and the racist devils had to say about Michael Brown when he was killed, execution style by that pig? And they said, oh, but he robbed a store. No, he didn't rob a store. He stole a pack of cigarillos that cost $10 or less. That is shoplifting. It's not robbery. And even if it was robbery, he was unarmed and he should have been taken to jail, not murdered in the streets. That's what happens to Black people. But people like Brooke Skylar Richardson, they can commit cold-blooded murder and just go home and go on with their fancy white lives, living in the suburbs, working for attorneys, and then become an attorney themselves. Isn't it lovely? With that all being said, I hope to see you on the next chat. Enjoy the rest of this lovely day.